We're not just putting content pieces because we're trying to fill gaps or we're just doing favors for people. We're trying to find the value for the listener. So what we're not going to do is give you 15 minutes on radio for something that can be discussed in 5 minutes. The talk radio space is a very competitive space. It's important that you get your facts right, you get your times right, and that also speaks to the timing and reading the room. It is not my job to make it work. What I'm telling you is an informed view as to what works and what doesn't work. Because I know that there are some PR professionals who promise their clients that I will get you on that platform.
No maganjani.
No maganjani.
Hi everyone, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Comms Hub, a podcast by Tishala Communications. And this is, of course, the platform where we talk about all things PR, digital marketing, and branding, and where we bring in the experts, to come and unpack these different facets of our field. And today we're going to be talking about something that's quite interesting. In fact, it's probably a public relations, practitioners' daily struggle. Having a journalist open your email because you are pitching for a client. And to help us unpack this, we actually have the Interim Programme Manager for SAFM, Andile Mwale, who is joining us in studio. And he's going to give us insights in terms of what do they look for, when they consider a pitch for an interview or for coverage. So, Andile, thank you so much for joining us. How
Good
are you?
afternoon, Nomsa. I'm well, and yourself?
Good. So tell us what your role is as a programs manager.
Well, my role as a programs manager is, I'd say it's a very complex role because you aren't only focusing on the sound of the station, you're the conduit between the presenters, the producers, the sales department, and you're the cog that connects everybody. You're the one that ensures that the content output is checked, it's editorially correct, and that we actually remain relevant and that we give South Africa the necessary news that they need to know, and that we also vet the people that we do speak to. But most of all, it's just to ensure that the sound of the station remains constant and that we deliver on our mandate as the public broadcaster.
Right. Now, you touch on something that is content, and I guess that's where your relationship with the public relations, or publicists comes into being, right? Because we also form part of, giving media that content. So, but on a daily basis, you are just flooded interview request. What would you say, as you're going through your emails, what is that first thing that makes you open that email or consider even opening it?
I'd say it would be the conciseness of the subject of the email. Something that draws my attention to say, actually, what is of interest here and would it actually interest the listener? Because what I find is that with some emails that you do get, people just give you too much information and they don't summarize the information, and you have to sift through as to what the person is actually saying. So if you have the title in the subject telling you exactly what we are discussing here, and also understanding Uguti, who are they speaking to, and would it be a role fit for the station or a particular show? Because it's one thing to just be flooded by a lot of media requests and we want this interview, but does it actually benefit the listener? Is it something for the public, or is it something that could be commercially viable, where you also find PR companies pushing their clients and they are making money, but also, I would say, leeching off the public broadcaster where they could actually be spending. So I have to get to a point where I speak to these PR agencies and I'm like, okay, there's this summit coming up and this is your client. How about you get them to partner with the station, or how can we collaborate together where it is mutually beneficial as opposed to us just interviewing them? Because it's one thing to just put your client on there, but what benefit is it also for the station?
Yeah.
Because it should be, I think, all-encompassing. It should be 360. Yes, we think about the benefit to the listener, but the station must also benefit, because if they are making money out of it and they just pitching it to you, what is the benefit also to the station? Because in as much as we are mandate driven, we must also think about the commercial imperatives as to, is it a public announcement? Is it something that benefits the public, or is it all encompassing?
Mm. Now, when we talk about, earned media, getting that editorial content, the content that has editorial value, how important is it for a public relations, a professional to actually know, the ins and the outs of the stations in terms of demographics, in terms of topics of interest? Because so I used to work in the newsroom, as you would know, and we would get a flurry of press releases, or sometimes you'd even receive a call of a person, asking you, who'd be interested in the subject matter. And, my response to them was, but it is actually your job to know the media landscape and to know who would be interested in it's not for me to tell you. So what would you say for you, what advice would you give them in terms of researching the demographics, or the topics of interest as far as the station is concerned?
I'd say the first thing that they would have to do is to actually, they need to consume the station. You need to consume the station. You need to consume the various shows at the station so you can find a role fit. What I've found is that because you've got so many stations, you find the same content circulating across stations just because they know a person working at the station. And I'm able to tell a content piece, which is a PR piece, when the producers sometimes I can tell that they are filling in a gap, so to speak, and just putting a PR thing here. And I would have heard the PR piece on another station.
Yeah.
And then I can tell that, you know what, these people are just putting this person on, but there's no real value to the listener. So for me, it's, if we're going to put a content piece on a station, it's important to consume the station, understand even the interaction that the station has with its listeners. What kind of show would it fit on? How is the presenter of that show? Would the content actually land there? We're not just putting content pieces because we're trying to fill gaps or we're just doing favors for people.
Yeah.
We're trying to find the value for the listener. So if you don't listen to the station, or you're going to ask, Gonja, who presents that show, or what time is that show, then I think you're just placing something there. But if you know that a content piece would not work on our station and it would work on maybe another younger youthful station, then take it there. We don't have to put everything everywhere. And you can tell when a person does not consume your media because they won't even know the presenter. Or, well, they don't know their name, they don't know their time slot, but they just say, put it there. And then they also want you to further angle the story for them. And then you will tell them, my job is not to angle the story. You have to come here with full information that I want to place this content piece on this show presented by this person at this time because this is what I think would work. Given the historic conversations that you guys have had on the show, I think this would lend itself to the station, as opposed to just saying that, put it there because this is my client. But does that client make sense to the station? And if you understand the demographics, do we have more women calling in? Do we have more men calling in? What is the interaction with the presenters? What is the flow of the different shows? So you really need to consume the station and ingratiate yourself into the culture of the listeners of the station. And if you get that right, then you'll always know how to position even your pitches to the station, because you know that if I position it between 9 and 12, I know who the presenter there is and the kind of content that they put
Normally
together.
have on the show.
And you must also know what kind of content piece. Is it a long form content piece or is it a short form conversation? Because what we're not going to do is give you 15 minutes on radio for something that can be discussed in 5 minutes just because you sold it as that. So you need to be able to also dissect that. Are you filling a page with words, saying nothing? Because there's one thing about reading it and putting it to print, but also translating that into a radio platform is completely different, because we have to now paint a picture for the listener. And if we feel like we have to be pulling straws or pulling blood from a stone when we're trying to unpack the content piece, then it means that it's not really worth it. Yeah.
Yeah, I like the emphasis that you make on the listener or the audience, right? Because, the more you're able to meet the audience's needs, the more they will tune in to your station. So, what advice, more especially on your platform as a talk radio platform, what kind of subject matters really appeal to your specific audience?
I think our subject matters would be mostly human interest stories. Because we have such a complex country riddled with so many problems, I find human interest stories which also not only give people opportunities, but also highlight the plight of the people and what solutions we're bringing to them. We've got such a despondent country at the moment, being it the economy, the unemployment, the crime, all that we're facing. So if we can bring solutions to the problems through human interest stories and not necessarily selling them something, we need to be selling them. I believe in selling people solutions to their problems because now we find that if everyone's despondent and it's bad news and we've got the spate of kidnappings and all of that, what solutions are we bringing? Am I going to introduce a new app to find missing people? Am I going to be part of the solution? Because if you're going to not connect with the mood of the country, then I think you've lost the audience. So it's also important to read the room, to read what's going on in the country and what's going on in the lives of people. What are their daily experiences and how can whatever you're pitching connect with them? Yeah.
And I think one of the, kind of the important elements in a newsworthy story is also the timing
Yes.
as well, right? How important is that in your field? Let's say, for example, we had, the State of the Nation address a day ago, for example, and then somebody comes a month after with commentary and wants to comment on the issue. So, how important is timing as well, when one is pitching? You also
Timing.
spoke about
Yeah.
reading the room
Yeah,
as well.
yeah. Timing is very important because I can tell that you're not abreast with what's going on in the world if you're going to send me something which is outdated. I spoke earlier about the need for us to be relevant.
True.
And the relevance speaks to if today is World Oceans Day, I need to be getting commentary about World Oceans Day, and I can't speak about that next week. Because if we are going to be educating the nation, it's important that we are also up to date as to what day in the world is it? Is it a UNESCO Day? Is it World Happiness Day? And all of those things. Because if you're going to speak on Happiness Day next week, it's so misplaced and people don't connect as to why we're speaking about it. So the people also need to be very time conscious as to, okay, are we going to tell them a week in advance that this is happening and then we'll remind them closer to the time? But they also need to fit into what's going on because you can't bring something which doesn't connect to the nation because you will be left behind. And you'll be left behind because other stations which are in the same space as we are going to do that content and they're going to be on time. And we live in such a fast-paced world that if you miss it, if you miss the train, it's gone. And if people feel as though that there's a regurgitation of content which speaks to nothing, then people move away from that. And because also the talk radio space is a very competitive space, it's important that you get your facts right, you get your times right, and that also speaks to the timing and reading the room and knowing that if there's a very big event that's going on in the world and we ignore that, other people are going to pick it up and the attention is going to go there. And because radio is not a static medium, people continuously move around mediums and they move around different stations to try and connect us to how they can better understand the story. So if we have a reputation for breaking down a story and getting the right voices, not the same voices that everybody gets, then we get to have that captive audience because they know that for me to verify or for me to understand something better, I should listen to this particular station because I know that they never miss. I know that I will have a better understanding of a subject matter on this station because they're not speaking at me. They are speaking to me.
Yeah.
They want me to understand, so I can also want to participate. And I always say talk radio allows you an opportunity to not only just consume the content, you can go have a conversation about something about what you heard on the radio with someone else because now you go there confidently knowing that that is a trusted source.
Yeah.
And because it's a trusted source, I can use that information because I not only am going to comment from a bird's eye view, I now have a better understanding and I can actually go do research myself because now it didn't make sense before, but now it makes sense
Yeah.
because they are known as the trusted news and information leader and they continue to ensure that we are up to date at all times and especially in the on the drive time shows, you find that it's there's always moving parts in a drive time show. So a story which broke at 1, and if our show's at 3 o'clock, we cannot be breaking the story at 3 o'clock. We need to.
The story's already moved.
The story's moved. Where are we now in the story? And where will the same story be at 5 o'clock? So somebody who heard the story at 1 needs to hear it at 5 and see how many developments have happened in that. And that speaks to timing and always just having your pulse on the nation. You need to peruse news channels. You need to peruse social media. Nakona, credible social media, yes.
Platform.
Yeah.
And that's what one thing that I, more especially when we hire publicists here at Dishala, I would always say, do you read? I would always ask, do you read? Do you consume news? Because it also fits into the way in which we, write our press releases, the angles, are they relevant? As you're saying, are we reading the room? Right now you said sometimes a story moves. Have we, what the kind of information with regards to, let's say, a story that's making the rounds, is it moving the story forward? So I like that you've emphasized that it's also very, very important for us as public relations, officials, to actually know what's going on around us, what's happening in the news as well, so that, we don't pitch stale news and, we really keep the relevancy in our pitch. And I think that's very, very important. Now, sometimes, I just want to ask you questions. How would you like to be treated as, let's say, a media specialist, somebody in the media? Because sometimes I think the relationship can be just, you expected to just give and give and give. I know a lot of you can be harassed on a daily
Yes.
phone calls. Hey, I pitch. So how would you like to be treated? Because relationships with the media are also very important. Like, for example, if I send an email to Andile pitching a story and he doesn't respond, what is a courteous thing to do? And maybe if after 2 follow-ups and Andile still does not respond, what is the courtesy? So how would you like to be treated, knowing that you also can't respond to each and every email or a message because you're bombarded with information and your responsibilities as well? So what would be the courteous thing to do that builds the relationship and keeps it as well?
So I'd say it would have to be a follow-up text. And I say text is very important as opposed to a phone call or constant harassing, because even when I speak to the producers, they always tell me that there are some PR professionals who can't take no for an answer.
Wow.
And they will harass you on the phone. They will WhatsApp call you even after hours. So you need to know that, I sent you an email in the morning, and because you know that we're all busy, I'll check up probably after lunchtime and say, hi, my name is so-and-so. Did you get my email? Please let me know if it would interest you. And then if I don't respond, then you'll understand that it didn't connect. There shouldn't be a situation where you're now harassing and I tell you that it's not a fit. And then you try and resell it another way and I tell you it's not a fit. I've had an experience even earlier this year where I told my PR professional that it just doesn't connect with the station. It just doesn't work on this particular show. I think it just won't work. And they said, no, they believe it works and I must find a way to make it work. And I said that it is not my job to make it work. What I'm telling you is an informed view as to what works here and what doesn't work. Because I know that there are some PR professionals who promise their clients that I will get you on that platform.
No
maganjani. And you can actually feel that pressure that person
is
under pressure, because now they're pressurizing you. I am under no obligation or under no pressure to give you what you want. And if I feel it doesn't connect with what we're doing, because in as much as you are a PR professional, you should also be able to know the etiquette of also dealing with the media.
With people.
Yes, and dealing with people.
Yeah.
And knowing that we need each other. And in needing each other, I shouldn't have to be the one who has to follow up. If you come to me and this story connects, I should not be asking you for more information on that. You should have all the information in your presser, And if I want to follow up something with you, it's important that you also respond and not make me wait 3 working days for you to respond when you came to me. Because as we spoke about how stories move all the time. So if you're not responsive, if you're going to blue tick me and respond 3 days later, there'll be somebody else who's going to bring something fresher. Because it's such a saturated environment,
and competitive as well.
and very competitive. So you should always be you should be responsive. You should communicate. I think it's just communicating with your different colleagues and just also letting them know that, okay, if this didn't work, how can I position it, or what can I do to make it better, or where do you think it would fit?
Yeah.
And not just demand that I want it on this particular show because that's how you pitched it. And what you pitch versus what we have to do are two different things, because I always say that because we also exist because of the public interest, and public interest is what drives us.
Yeah.
And I have to first think about that before I think about satisfying your client who you promised. So if you know how to communicate, and also to take constructive feedback and constructive criticism and not take it personally. I think a thick skin is very important. You need to understand what it didn't work out, and you can pitch again something else. Don't be angry now or go and badmouth this station or this media house because they said no to you. How do you take the constructive feedback and go back to the drawing board and say, actually, if this doesn't work, let me speak to the person so I understand what kind of stories they send? Because also there's some PR people who just send like broadcast message, and you can tell if they sent it to the three of us, we all got the same message. And you're like, okay, so you also got it. So there's nothing personable about that.
Personalizing a message for that particular platform. So we spoke about maybe, harassing and just pushing an irrelevant story that can be one of the things that breaks a relationship with a publicist. What are some of the things that you've come across in your line of work? Also understanding that you've also produced some shows as well.
So some things that have
kind of said, you know what, we actually can't have a relationship with this person. And things that ruin that critical relationship with the publicist.
For me, it was the constant harassment. The constant harassment to such an extent where you even come to my place of work.
Wow. Guys, stop doing that.
You come to my place of work and now you are looking for me because I'm not responding. But I told you the first time that it's not going to work, and you're going to harass, you're going to WhatsApp, you're going to use different numbers, you're going to call me directly, you're going to call reception because you have made a promise to somebody else. And I said that there's nothing that's off-putting to, I think, a media professional as a person who just harasses you and with constant, I think even speaking to me after office hours and buzzing me after office hours, sending me question marks. And
not having boundaries.
Yes, not having boundaries, and understanding that I get it, that you have to meet your targets, but also understand that you're not the only one who's doing what you're doing. And and if I have to sift through everybody and respond to everybody, I won't be able to get to everybody. And there are those who we have built relations because they know that, this is the type of station and these are the type of shows, and the content is always relevant to that. But even then, they also know not only to always be asking, they also invite you as the media to go for experientials with their clients for you to have a better understanding as to what service is being provided here, or
what solutions are being
or what solutions are being brought. Because sometimes it's something about having a tangible experience as opposed to and they also want you to meet those clients, and like I think that media immersions are very important because it's not just a platform where you put your story. You also need to meet the person who ensures that happens, but they also need to understand why you do what you do. So having networking with the media, I think that's also very important. Putting a face to the people who actually bring the story to life. Very important, because now you're building relations and you get to understand the person that, oh, this person does not talk before 10 o'clock in the morning. That means I should call them after 10 o'clock or text them then. But I will send them an email in the morning and then I'll follow up. Did you see my email? Because now you're building that trust with that person, and they also know how you work. Because I think if you know how another person works, then you know how to treat them better, and then you will get a response. And I don't think I'm personally very good at my emails. I have OCD of seeing a barrage of emails, and I will respond. And I found that when some people can't take no for an answer, I then refer them to our sales team and I tell them, if this client,
Really wants to be on that
if
platform.
then they must pay for it. Then they must pay for it. And then I have silence after that. And that's the end of the story.
Yeah, and that's also what I tell the team here at Dishala, because we've built relationships with the media over the years. And some of us were former journalists as well, so these guys used to be our colleagues. But I always say, the media, more especially with earned interviews, if you have not paid for it, then you're really not owed anything.
You're not entitled to it.
You are not entitled to it, and the onus is on you to ensure that you are meeting, the listeners' needs, because that's one thing that we really emphasize here, even to our clients, that the way in which we craft your messaging is, are we satisfying the audience's needs? Firstly, what does the audience need? It needs to be informed. It needs to be educated. It needs to be entertained as well. So are we fitting into or is it an advertorial, which means then that you must pay for? So I also think that the onus is on us as well as publicists to be very, very honest with our clients in terms of what angle or what story would appeal to the media. Because if you've got new sense as a publicist, you can tell from the onset, even when your client proposes it. And sometimes I say to our clients, I can tell you this from the onset that this won't do well. So let's try something else. So I think the also onus is on us as publicists to really educate and be honest with our client about what meets editorial standards and what can qualify as an earned media coverage, as opposed to something that you must really, really pay for. And I think that's very important. Yeah.
And as you speak of that, it makes me think about the fact that when I said that I'm able to, when I'm perusing the different shows and as they pitch them every day, I'm able to tell that this is a PR piece, and that it's just been placed there. But I always say that a great PR piece is one where even if we were to hear it on the radio, it should feel part of the show. We shouldn't be able to tell that this person that it's an advertorial. Like it's like even when people buy airtime on the station, we always make sure that we integrate it into the show as part of the conversation. Unless we do say that this is brought to you by ABC, but outside of that, it needs to connect to what we're doing already. Because if you can tell that, okay, now they're speaking about tires, but the show has never even spoken about cars. What are we doing here? You can tell already, because I think it's also a tune-out factor. And if you don't position your stories in a way where with the listener in mind, then you've already lost the listener, because you're doing it for yourself. And when you speak about being honest with your clients, I think a lot of PR professionals are not honest with their clients. For them, it's about the end goal of what their deliverables are. And if you are honest with your client and you tell them that, I know that is a tough crowd that you are dealing with them, and this is what they're going to expect, then I'm going to need you to do the following things. And if you're not willing to do that, then you must understand that, yes, I'll do it, but it's not going to get the desired results. Because the one thing that we don't want is for a person to feel as though something is being shoved down their throats. Absolutely. It should feel genuine. It should be organic in the conversation. And it speaks to how you're speaking about the earned media. It also speaks to how can I position this for it to form part of the show. Let that be part of the conversation. When you pitch that story, let even that producer or that editor find that story and say, this is a perfect piece. This would connect with our audience, because it doesn't feel forced down. It feels like this is what we should be speaking about, and it speaks to what we're trying to achieve. It's solutions driven. It identifies the problem. it takes the country forward. Yeah.
One thing that I really want to kind of speak to you about, because sometimes, you might find that the person passes the media pitching test, you give them an interview. A lot of us do it on behalf of our client, right? Now the client comes on air, they're not well spoken, they can't articulate the messaging. What kind of preparation and also the quality of clients that a publicist brings on the platform are you kind of looking for? How important is that aspect?
I think media training is very, very important, especially if you understand which station you're going on to and how the people there converse. So we are an English medium station. If you're going to bring a client who can't even articulate themselves in English, already the people are going to be focusing on the non-articulated nature of that client as opposed to
the message.
the message. So media training is very important. How fast a person should speak, how prepared they are, and also understanding that it's not necessarily going to be a sweetheart interview all the time, because in as much as talking points could be given,
Yes, which I wanted to ask you about. Yeah.
So the presenters also they prepare themselves, and we do not dictate to them what should be asked, because they think, okay, great solution, but what about this? And it shouldn't be a situation where the client says, I can't answer that, I was not prepared for that. And a client should always be prepared that given the platform that you're going onto and you're dealing with serious journalists here, you could be asked anything and you need to be able to think on your feet. Because the minute you feel like they caught you out or you were badly represented, they're going to come and complain to you. But if you had prepared them that this is the direction we're going, these are the talking points, they are going to use some of them, not all of them, and they're going to put their own. Be prepared for that. I think in that way there, it would work better, because they must also know that it's important to be agile. You need to be agile and understand that anything is possible and every presenter is different. And we do not go into any show having told the presenter that you cannot ask this question here.
Yeah.
Because it also takes away from their journalistic independence. So they need to be able to,
integrity.
yes, and the integrity. So I always say that media training is very important, and also that open honesty with clients that, hey, you are going into a battlefield here, and if this is your topic and you want to speak about this, you need to take the good and the bad,
And be prepared and know what you're talking about.
and know what you're talking
as
about,
well.
and answer your phone when you are called. Please.
Yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on our platform. Thank you so much for giving us insight, because a lot of publicists also, some have not been as fortunate as some of us who've worked in the newsroom and know how things work. So thank you for giving us just insight into how you work, how publicists should handle rejection as well. Because it happens, I even still experience it as experienced that I am. So thank you so much for also educating us about the platform in which you manage. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me, Nomsel. I think in closing, I just want to say that, it is a very important relationship that we do have with PR professionals, and it's one which is going to exist for a very long time, because we need each other.
Yeah.
And if we understand that we need each other, we need to treat each other better, and also understand the roles that we play in society. And if we're going to play our different roles in society, we must craft our messages better, but we must also be able, as I said, to take the constructive criticism and go back to the drawing board, but also to be patient and not want instant results for everything.
Absolutely.
And that speaks to the harassment of Uguti. If I don't respond now and you follow up and you decide that you're going to pitch at my workplace, or you're going to harass somebody who I know that I'm not answering, then already you're breaking that boundary which we want to build, and we're building together.
True.
And I always say that whatever we're doing, especially with earned media and solution-driven media, we're trying to build a country.
True.
And if we're trying to build a country, we're going to need to work with each other and not against each other.
Absolutely.
I digress.
Absolutely. Guys, please stop harassing producers and journalists. That's not how we done. That's the type of stuff that really ruins relationships, and we end up being painted with the same brush. So I think, yeah, Andile has really said a mouthful. So this was the episode on media pitching. We will have more. In fact, our next episode is about crisis communication, right? So you want to stay tuned for that. But if you want to interact with us, or you want to enlist our services, we are available on most social media platforms. We've got Twitter, we've got formerly X. What is it now? No, Twitter, formerly X, at Dishala Comms. We are also on LinkedIn, Dishala Communications. We are also on Instagram as well. And if you would like to see some of the work that we've done, our website is dishalacommunications.com. I'm Nomsam Dluli, your host. Thank you so much for being with us, and see you next time.